With all the carnage the two sides left behind, though mostly the Poeran side, she thought, Nessa grabbed a broom and followed behind once the larger rubble was out of the way. She marveled at her stronger allies moving literal buildings and spotted Zaradon, who looked like he could move mountains if he wanted to.
Hey Zaradon, I want to thank you again for you and Zane's help with that mage. Sorry I couldn't do more than whatever the hell that stunt I pulled was. It really shouldn't have worked.
She chuckles a little, then thinks for a second.
And, don't tell Zane I said that about him for now. I'm still upset at him regarding our disagreement yesterday.
She glares over at Zane, who is lifting rubble from another building. He doesn't need an I told you so moment right now.
Hey, it was quick thinking. Unorthodox to the extreme, but it worked. Thank you for providing such a lovely opening.
He slows his roll for a moment, taking a few deep breaths.
If only the whole damn war could be fought with such antics. Probably lead to fewer graves to dig.
Finally building up the courage to really look at what she was sweeping, her face drops and she sighs at the sight of ashes mixed with blood, rubble, and various fabrics. She starts to wonder if parts of Alberic looked similar, or worse. She was lucky to have avoided the worst of it after all.
If only.
Not wanting to even think about the war, she continues sweeping, but looks up from the miniature pile of genocide over at Zaradon.
Speaking of antics, I actually have a business proposal, if you'll hear me out as we clean.
Oh ho! I welcome the distraction. What's on your mind?
Thank you. So remember how you and Kingfisher were talking about sloops back in San Misericordia? I think the price was 12,500 gold? I was thinking we could split the cost of it and consider the sloop a future investment for the army.
She continues, now with a powerful spark in her eyes.
Not only would it allow us to help more people in the long run, like how we saved Batal, but having the sloop under ownership of 2 people would lower the chances of it getting seized if the worst were to happen.
Gotta future-proof this idea, just in case.
And hey, maybe once we've reclaimed Alberic, you might be in need of a small crew.
Her face sinks briefly, then perks back up.
I'm on the fence about returning to Tyke Sector, even once it's safe to be there, so I've got no real plans after the war. What do you think?
That would be a wonderful epilogue to this whole thing. Get this sorted out and then retire to the freedom of the waves. Let the next generation fret over the next dust up.
He finds a sturdy crate that survived the battle and takes a seat, opening his helm, producing a cloth to wipe away sweat and grime.
You know, a musician on the high seas is a wonderful asset to keep crew morale up. Most boats make do with a local drunkard who can barely hold his tune in a bucket. Have you and your music out there? Why, every navy would turn admiral to his envy.
A warm smile.
You're a good, solid companion overall. So yes, I find this proposal quite promising. I'm in.
Yeah, let's leave the lands to those who know what they're doing. Or don't. We've seen some shitty politicians lately.
Knowing full well she is the next generation politically, and could do some good on Alberic soil if she applied herself, she starts to feel a little guilty. But not expecting the high praise about her music, she smiles back.
I'm glad we're in agreement. We can talk details once we both pull in the 6,250 gold each. And thank you for the kind words.
She leans against some of the rubble next to where he's sitting, knowing her stature won't make it topple.
You know, I always wondered how useful this whole music stuff really was in battle. When I received that letter, then realised I knew my mother, I thought to myself, gods, I'm only here because of some namesake. He must have gotten desperate. And seeing only 6 of us arrive in Ramo solidified that for me. But noticing how you and the others do rely on me somewhat is nice.
Realizing she's opening up too much, she toned it back a notch and hastily stopped leaning on the rubble.
I'm sorry. Seeing the armor, it almost feels like speaking to my father again. So I kinda got too comfortable there. When you ignore the flesh underneath, knights all look the same.
She gives a nervous but warm chuckle, hoping to ease the internal awkwardness.
Hey, don't worry about it. I'm used to folks either ignoring me or cussing me out. Humble chat is always welcome. In comparison to your pa, well, now that's an honor.
He pauses, scratching an itch in his beard.
However, if you don't mind me saying so, I don't think you're giving music enough credit. You ever seen a miner's line with the rowers of a galley? Or even the frolicking of children with their whimsical dances? 9 times out of 10, they'd be singing. You could argue some of them shouldn't. Add a tune with voices smooth as gravel. Yeah, they'd be singing a tune, dancing a jig, moving the drums. Music's what keeps souls in lockstep. Powerful force keeping everyone united in cause and moving as one. It's a mighty reminder that no matter how hard the labor, nor how fierce the storm, nor savage the battle, that you're not alone. Brothers and sisters, to your right and your left, one motion, one purpose. Fine tune can also free a weary mind and remind them of better times. You only have to see a whistling prisoner for that evidence. Any old brute,
He smacks his breast.
can pick up a sharp object and kill with it. Your talents can keep us together, unified and bolstered with the memories of why we do battle to begin with.
He stands, rolling his shoulders and stretching for a moment.
By the fates, music is so sacred and powerful that whales and birds have their own songs.
Nessa tears up a little at the knight's speech.
So you understand. You have the heart and mind to understand why I play.
She leans back on the rubble, pulling out her instrument to look at. Just staring at it puts her at ease.
When that war hit my country, I was a mess. I was 16 with no experience behind a blade. My father wouldn't have allowed it. All I could do was look to the western sky, powerless, and watch others march on, hoping my father returned with the right flag waving high. The look in my eye during those months must have been obvious, because that's when my brother's fiancée taught me the heart and soul of music. She was a travelling performer and taught me most of what I know today. Even when I fled the country alone a year after the war ended, I took those teachings and learnt my main reason for performing. It helped me get some coin when I needed it most, but I play to tell stories. Stories of the experiences I had, the places I've been,
She looks up to watch people clearing the town, then at Zaradon.
and the people I've had the pleasure of meeting. You hear bardic songs of inspiration, depicting the stories of legendary rulers, gods that may or may not have walked the lands, and other hotshots. They're also depicted in history books, so who's writing about the everyday heroes? Who will document and write about their tale once they've left this world?
She looks back down at the flute.
I plan to hold that tune. I could be playing the same 15 notes for everyone, but that isn't power. That's a rehash of an old tale when there are so many new ones. And I appreciate you reminding me of that goal.
Zaradon removes a gauntlet, gently places his hand on her shoulder.
And I appreciate you keeping my soul remembering why we're here, despite the fact my mind lost the siege an age ago.
So long as I'm playing, or as long as my songs stay intact,
She pats her bag with her journal poking out.
you and the others will always be remembered.
She notices more of the larger rubble gone, indicating that she should get back to sweeping.
I feel I slacked off enough. The sooner we get the rest of the town cleaned up, the quicker we can check on the others.
She starts putting her flute back in her pocket and chuckles.
You know where to find me in battle. You can't miss the sound. Take care, Zaradon.
She grabs the broom and walks to the next ashy mess.
Aye, likewise, Nessa.
He flips his helmet back down.